Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, now in our 6th season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. My name is Mikey Smith. This is the flagship show, and on the weekend that Line of Duty returns to our screens, I'm joined by two men who, aside from the odd dodgy expenses receipt, are as straight as they come. How are you both?
What? Yeah, it's taken aback by that. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Mikey. Yeah, really good. Thanks.
Mother of God.
I thought they'd been brushed under the carpet.
I hope that doesn't affect your pension, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, struck off. No. Yeah, you can't be doing that. Can't be doing that, Joe, can we? We can't be doing that.
Some accusations will be false.
Absolutely, all of them.
And Joe, can I congratulate you on finishing your degree this week?
Oh, yeah. I had my dissertation result back this week, so I'm all done apart from this endpoint assessment I have to do in a couple of weeks. So only 18 years after I started my degree have I finally finished one.
Brilliant. Oh, well
18 freshers weeks.
How long were you doing your dissertation for, Joe?
Well, because of COVID, it sort of got delayed a few times over. So I ended up just doing it the last probably from like January to March. So there's some exciting times about the construction skills gap.
Yeah, nice to get something like that out of the way.
Yeah, you'll have to send us all a copy of that, Joe. Let's have a look through. We'll start with the news. We'll start with the news, and by recent standards, it's been a relatively quiet week at Ipswich. On Thursday, we learned that Troy Parrott will miss our trip to Wigan next week. Bit of a shame, this one, Joe, as he's been looking pretty good in behind Norwood, although obviously he didn't play at Portsmouth.
Yeah, he's probably, like I say, we made these 4 loan additions in January, and he's probably the only one that's actually proved to be worthwhile, hasn't it? When sort of Matheson has sort of played a couple of games and not been seen for ages. Harrott's been generally poor and not on the bench at the weekend. Luke Thomas seems to be miles off it. It's back in the under-23s now. So I'd say it's typical of sort of poor recruitment window, and the only player that is making an impact now is unavailable for a game.
It's a bit of a sign of the times for Ireland, isn't it, Dave? Hopefully Stat's not listening to this, but a bit of a sign that League One loanee is making it into the...
Yeah, you got to say that, haven't you? Yeah, blimey. I didn't realise he's actually the full Ireland squad, was it? Crikey.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Days of Niall Quinn and Robbie Keane are long behind them.
My goodness me. Yeah, he's done okay. Again, I think there's a player in there somewhere. I mean, not been a huge goal threat for us, but I can't fault him for effort and application. But and he's young still, 19 for goodness sake. But yeah, as you say, a definite sign of the times for. Definite sign of the times for Ireland. Is McGoldrick retired?
He's retired,
yeah. He has retired now, hasn't he? I thought so.
Well, I think even when you looked at it, sort of watched a few games at the end of mixed reign there, and they just have nothing up front at all. And it was a case of Troy Parrott, that Connolly from Brighton, who's got a couple of senior goals, and after Murphy, McGoldrick, and I think they're just taking the view just to sort of drop down and try and get some young, very promising players like Parrott and that Adam Eder, who's at Norwich, and just trying to push them on to get only ones that are actually going to be able to play long term for them, rather than just sort of try and get some stop gaps with some sort of Championship League One strikers to play in there.
Indeed,
good for the lad. Good experience for him though.
Yeah, hopefully it goes well and he comes back.
Who are they playing?
Without an injury.
Do we know who they're playing even?
No, I haven't checked. I'm pretty sure I think they've got 3 games in that week, so I'd be amazed if he doesn't get any minutes in that.
Yeah.
Cool. So on Friday morning, Dave, out of absolutely nowhere, we had some fantastic news as it was revealed that the lesser spotted Kane Vincent-Young was to be named in the squad for the Portsmouth game. How big a boost is that for us, not just in the short term?
Massive, isn't it? I mean, for everybody. I mean, he was absolutely superb. I mean, you forget he only played... What an impact he made. I think he played 9 games, was it, he played for us? I mean, what an impact. I mean, he was scoring goals, he was assists, he was so good, wasn't he? Absolutely so good. It's almost from nowhere, because I think he obviously got injured again, came back, got injured in pre-season. Then I think he was close to a comeback, I think, in January. Then had a knee problem in training. And I honestly thought, and I think a few of us did, I don't know, Joe, but a few of us thought that, well, it's just, I don't think we're going to see him this season. Then you're right. And this is you see this from the club sometimes. There's been no news, and he's there, and not only was he, I thought, that's quite good. He'll travel with the squad sort of thing. He's named on the bench, and ultimately makes a bit of a cameo near the end. I mean, incredibly, yeah, can only be good for us. I'm sure we'll get onto that, but quite an interesting selection point, I think, now going forward.
Indeed, we will get to that. Yeah, Joe, how much of it, even if we don't make the playoffs this season, how big is it that Kane Vincent-Young can get himself fit between now and the end of the season?
Well, it's massive, isn't it? Like I say, he played 9-10 games, and Mick Mills named him in our team of the decade. This is a player who's played 800 games for Ipswich as a fullback, won the sort of all those honours, captain England at a World Cup, and he said he was our sort of best right back of the decade, and that impact he made. And I'd say, like Dave, I wasn't expecting to see him this season. I think he was just a case. Anything you got out of him this year was going to be a bonus, but I didn't expect to see him this quickly. And with sort of the excellent pod you did, Mikey, with the Wigan and Portsmouth guys, and they're all just saying it was Cook loves his fullbacks. He needs these attacking fullbacks who can get forward, and ultimately Luke Chambers isn't the man to do that at right back for us, and Cook is having to play players maybe not quite how he'd like them to play in those roles. And you just saw the impact. Vincent-Young, the first thing he did when he came on, he carried the ball and got us up 80 yards up the pitch and won a corner or throw in straight away. And it's just like, that's just what we've missed, isn't it? That running power, the carrying the ball, interchanging, and just the confidence and pace. Yeah,
and he's so comfortable on the ball in tight spaces as well, isn't he? He's got that lovely little turn.
He's two-footed.
He's so two-footed for a League One player. Like, he's got a lovely little step over with his left foot as well. And yeah, he could make such a big difference for us, couldn't he?
Yeah.
There was also some exciting news for the Blue Monday podcast itself this week, as we secured a new sponsor. It's called Favourite Chicken and Ribs, and they're a takeaway and delivery franchise with over 90 stores, from traditional pieces of fried chicken to hot wings, ribs and burgers, and even donuts, as Dave found out. They've got you covered. And they kindly sent each of us some samples, and it's fair to say that we enjoyed them, didn't we, gents?
Yeah, very good. I had the sort of family sampler box. I'd have ideally liked to get some chicken on the bone, but eating with the kids, it was sort of a bit of a no-no. So we went for that. And no, really good. Had that. Even had a couple of ribs chucked in there as well, which was very nice. So I'd urge people to get out there and try that. Like I say, these restaurants have had a tough time in lockdown. So good to get out and try the local delicacies.
Yeah, we went full on chicken. So I think similar meal to Joe, but full on chicken on the bone. Yeah, very good. Yeah, really thoroughly enjoyed that. And as Joe said, yeah, great to support these establishments now, because the tough times that they've all had through lockdown. So yeah, that was very, very much appreciated.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I had hot wings and a spicy chicken burger meal, and as it was a Sunday, I had gravy as well.
I had gravy.
So our
Ipswich-based dip, that was good.
Very nice. Our Ipswich-based listeners can enjoy a 20% discount by entering BM20 at the checkout page online. Just visit www.chicken-ipswich.co.uk or check out their Facebook page, www.facebook.com/favourite Ipswich delivery. So I guess the three of us are now chick influencers, is what would be called.
Convert.
And I promise that when we plug that in the future, it won't be as long as that. This was the introduction.
20% is a great offer, though, isn't it? So people should take advantage of that.
Absolutely. So on to Saturday.
It's just a shame it's not a weekend of winner chicken dinner. But anyway, let's move on.
Hey, it would have written itself then, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would have been, wouldn't it?
Lovely stuff. So going on to Saturday's game now, and Town travelled to Portsmouth looking for our first win against them in any competition since 2012. And wow. Paul Cook made 4 changes, with Stephen Ward, Teddy Bishop, Keenan Bennett and James Norwood coming in for Kenlock, Skews, Parrott and Jackson. And to begin with, Joe, although on paper it's a 4-3-2-1, again, it looked like a 4-4-2, didn't it?
Yeah, there was Keenan Bennett was playing this sort of strange role where when we had the ball, we were a real sort of 4-3-3. Bennett's out wide on the left, Edwards on the right. But when we didn't have the ball, Judge sort of shifted over to the left-hand side, and Bennett's didn't really have much defensive responsibility at all. We almost went 2 banks to 4 with Bennett's just as a free man, almost as a second striker when we didn't have the ball. So that was quite an interesting setup from Cook, who's sort of showing a bit of adaptability already to sort of try and work with what he's got.
And just before we get into it, we'll talk about Portsmouth as well. So Danny Cowley's first game in charge. I'm going to probably make a mess of some of these pronunciations, but the goalkeeper I think I've seen Luke Penning singling him out as a potential future Ipswich signing, because a lot of these Portsmouth players are out of contract in the summer. So it's McGivelry, Bolton right back, Watmore and Raggett the centre backs, Brown left back, then the impressive Ronan Curtis left wing, Cannon and Naylor the central midfielders, Harness on the right, and Williams behind Hiwula.
Auga.
I'll go to Dave first. What was your reaction to the news that the Cowleys were taken over at Portsmouth? Because I know a lot of people although we're happy with Paul Cook, they were a lot of people's first choice for the Ipswich job, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I mean, I was surprised, maybe slightly surprised. I mean, again, it's one of these deals that obviously clearly that Cook had turned down previously at Cardiff. I think, and initially it's just to the end of the season for the last 12 games. So perhaps I was surprised, but Portsmouth, as League One, it's a big club. Big club in League One. I suppose in the south, nice part of the world, South Coast. That didn't greatly surprise me. They're always going to take a job at some point, and I think we were sort of congratulating ourselves when Jackett left, weren't we? When basically saying, well, just as well we got Cook when we did, because he'd have probably been a shoe-in perhaps to go back there. He's very well thought of. Clearly, all the comments we had from Portsmouth fans, and I know you had on the on your chat, Mikey, was all very positive about Cook. So yeah, they were always going to end up somewhere. Just unfortunately, it was Portsmouth, and it was their first game yesterday.
Yeah, it was sod's law that it was going to be just before they were playing us, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and I was very surprised that they've taken such a short-term deal just to the end of the season. And sort of, I'd been speaking to a few people about this, sort of with regards to the difference between Paul Cook and Danny Cowley. And I think if we wanted to get promotion this year, maybe Danny Cowley would have been a better option, because they're very adaptable to the players that they've got. Whereas Marcus Evans in this appointment is obviously seen as a long-term view with Paul Cook. And he made sort of the big player the style of football, and that's the style of football that the fans of all his previous clubs have spoken about. That maybe it is going to be a bit of a slower burn with Cook than it would have been with Cowley, where they might have taken a more pragmatic approach just to try and get us up this year. And and then obviously if you fail when you do that, you end up sort of in a worse position sometimes. So
yeah, and luckily football fans are very patient, so there won't be any complaining. So with Paul Cook bellowing instructions from the touchline, really like more audibly than ever. We started with real purpose, didn't we? And in the 20th minute, Judge hits a decent free kick, which the keeper had to save. In the 31st minute, Norwood got in behind, but Bennett was unable to make proper contact with his cross. But a minute later, Norwood was behind again, Joe.
Yeah, so I think it's Teddy Bishop wins the ball back in midfield, and he plays it to Edwards. He makes a good run forward, but then just lacks a little bit of intent on the ball and loses it. But Chambers just wins the ball straight back and gives it to Bishop. Bishop again feeds Edwards, and this time Edwards takes a lovely first touch, knocks it inside, and then plays a really nice reverse ball from that sort of right channel. And like the run Norwood had made for when Bishop had slipped him in early, he makes a really good run, and it just sits nicely, and he absolutely wallops it in. Really, it's a really good finish, isn't it, from a player who's, I think sort of Norwood, he missed a lot of one-on-ones last season, but this time he actually just, rather than try to dink it over the keeper or be a bit clever, he just sort of tried to knock the lever off the ball, and a really good finish. And this is what James Norwood gives you, isn't it? He is a player that makes those runs, he gets those chances. It's no coincidence that we create better chances when he's in the side, for me.
Absolutely. He's our best striker, isn't he, Dave? And it was a good shape, that finish.
Oh, it was a lovely shape. It was a clever run. He runs off the shoulder, I think. It's Raggett, isn't it? Just gets behind him. It's such a good run. It's really good play from Edwards, though. It was a lovely weighted ball. As Joe said, he drifts inside, then hits it left foot. It's a lovely ball, and he just doesn't mess with it. He just, smashes it, doesn't he? Really good finish, actually. Very good goal. And at that point, no issues at all. Looking so comfortable, playing really well. Joe said we just had the chance a minute before when perhaps, Norwood was pushed slightly wide and Bennett's perhaps should have got a better contact and scored. He really wasn't far out. And we had the Judge free kick. We were looking really good. Bishop was making those runs from midfield, linking the play. Just very, very comfortable. And then...
Yeah. Fire away, Dave. Portsmouth get a corner, don't they?
Well, but again, there was weird. The game we stopped doing that after we scored. The game was sort of going nowhere really, and you're saying, okay, we'll get in this 40 minutes gone, 40 odd minutes gone, get into half time, and then they hadn't threatened at all. I think this was their first corner, and that was kind of a lucky one. I think it was a free kick or something. I don't know. The ball was passed forward, and
they tried to take a quick free kick, didn't they?
Yeah, it got a little deflection, and the Pompey commentator was quite funny because he said, "Oh, Chambers made it obvious. It was if it was a slight deflection, Chambers made it obvious. I think it was Chambers who's bust a gut trying to keep it in, and only just missed it. And then it's a good. In defence, Curtis was a good corner hit with pace, swung in really good." Is it Chambers sort of loses his man? Does he ball watch? And I don't know, but anyway, it gets to Naylor and the pace on the ball. Naylor gets a pretty good contact, far posting in, and then it's a bit sloppy. Is Dazelle on the post, or is he not? Is he marking? Is he? He's sort of like half marking harness, half on the post. Yeah, he doesn't make an effort to get it. I think to be fair to Chambers, is a really well struck, delivered ball, really, really well delivered corner, but. We should defend it better, shouldn't we? We really should. And it's just, and you could see, 1-1, and you could see a bit of a slump, and that they really hadn't had anything, hardly any possession around our box at all.
Probably the first time they'd been in our box.
Yeah, I think it had, and it just sets you back, doesn't it? It gives them a hell of a lift, and it just sets you back on your heels a bit.
Yeah, we won't dwell on that too much, Joe. But was Chambers perhaps a little bit guilty of watching his man rather than the ball?
Chambers, yeah, he's trying to hold off Naylor as opposed to sort of watching where the ball is, and then sort of Toto goes up for the header, but I don't know whether he gets underneath the ball or. But I think ultimately, it's a really good delivery, and the header. I think even if Dazelle was on the post, I don't think he'd have stopped it because it's gone in. It's flashed across, and because he doesn't really get great contact on it. It just sort of deflects across, and it flicks in off the very top of the post. And I think it's one of those ones that if you score it, you just think great delivery, great goal, really. But I say every goal's avoidable one way or another. But I think the avoidable thing was the frustrating corner to give away, wasn't it, for me? And then, like I say, it's just
you're right.
Comedy of errors. It's just you
could accept it more.
Great delivery, isn't it?
You could accept it more if they're threatening the box and there was a dangerous cross came in and cut out for a corner. It was just a sloppy corner, really, wasn't it? But no, great delivery and really hard to defend, I suppose, at the end of the day.
I think
it's Naylor... like a whack-horn delivery, wasn't it?
Yeah, come on, let's not get into that again.
Not at Norwich that day.
Apart from the assist. Naylor, incidentally, my Pompey mates informed me. So I think he scored against us in the FA Cup as well. But anyway, Jackett didn't play him in the playoffs last season, even though he was fit. And his reason for it was that he's effectively said that some players are suited for the winter conditions and others aren't. So he didn't play Naylor because he didn't think he suited summer football. So the Pompey fans enjoyed him scoring in the first game after Jackett left on a spring afternoon, the first day of spring.
Wow. It was pretty chilly yesterday, though.
Yeah, it wasn't yeah. Maybe it was. Maybe Jackett's right after all, and he won't score again this season. Joe, at 1-1 at half time, what was your overriding emotion? Because for much of it, it was like, this is brilliant. This is exactly how we should be playing against the top teams away from home. But then conceding the goal, you feel like, how are we going to react from this?
Yeah, it was frustration because we had been by far the better side throughout the whole half, really. Even after the goal, and like I say, we just were making good runs. Bennett was landing on the ball in good positions and maybe not quite having the confidence to shoot or make a decisive contribution. Norwood was running well. I thought Dazelle and Bishop were controlling the midfield, really. Edwards was doing okay, sort of a bit hit and miss, but we were just not under any problems. And then we know how difficult we find it to score a goal, and once you score one, you just can't. Like I say, you just can't concede when against a team who weren't playing well at the time, who looked bereft of confidence. And suddenly, like I say, it's a point I'd made sort of on Twitter last night. It's like we seem to build momentum so slowly, and we build our confidence up so slowly, and then when we lose it so quickly, and our heads just drop. And even after the goal, the last sort of 2 or 3 minutes of the half, you could just see that we needed half time to come to try and sort of get the players back in the change room, and for Cook to basically just try and get them going again, tell them how well they played, tell them that they're the better side, tell them that game was there for the winning. But whatever happened, it didn't. At half time, we came out in the second half and looked exactly the same as we did, bereft of confidence, playing with fear, just not make people taking the easy options as opposed to trying to make something happen. And the second half followed a predictable pattern, really.
It did, yeah. Not an awful lot, really. It was a bit of a nothing for third quarter of the game, wasn't it? Not an awful lot happened. Armando Dobra, who's sort of in from the cold again, came on for Bennett, who tired quite badly, didn't he? And in the 72nd minute, Joe, it's Portsmouth who scored the third goal of the game. Yeah,
so it's a ball down the flank, isn't it? And it's one of those ones where I don't think the ball does go fully off, but it's one of those ones where they always seem to get given, where part of the ball goes across and the linesman always flags. But when that happens, it's Curtis again, isn't it? Who just gets away and pulls the ball back, and it's just one of those crosses that all our players are going backwards, and it's just sort of Ward, I think, is the closest one to it. He just can't quite get a foot to it. Is it Judge who makes the first block from Harness?
Yeah, gets really well as well.
Makes a good block, but the ball just could go anywhere, but it doesn't. It just sits up perfectly for Harness just to run in and wallop it at the goal. And unless it was going to hit someone, it was going in, and it did go in. And I think we all had the same sort of emotion at that point. Game over, effectively. We just didn't look like we were going to be able to sort of turn the screw back round, and sort of prove to be the case.
No. Absolutely. I think there was a few examples of the ball going out of play down that side. I think it's because it's such a consistently green pitch, but on the touchline where the linesman runs along, it's completely bare. And I wonder whether it was just a difficult one to sort of work out when the ball was out of play or not. Because it happened in our favour once that I can recall, and it happened again, I think, earlier in the second half. Where I thought Portsmouth were going to score after it.
Yeah, I mean, the players didn't stop. I mean, for the rest of the move that led to the goal, there was an appeal as soon as he sort of kept it in and no flag. They were appealing, and then obviously when the goal goes in, everybody appeals for it. But yeah, I think it was one of those things. It was just looked more out than it was in, but it was obviously in, and yeah, we just didn't quite react. Lucky though, wasn't it? Great block by Judge, but yeah, just that's the way it goes sometimes. Just sat up, as you say, and he lashed it in.
So one of the things that the Pompey and Wigan fans told me about Paul Cook is that the plan B, when things aren't going well, is to just carry on, just change the personnel, but not change the formation. But a couple of times now, he has actually changed the formation already. So he brought on. Well, first of all, let's talk about Kane Vincent-Young coming on, because he came on for James Wilson, and Luke Chambers moved back into the back into centre back. Is that where we're expecting him to play now for the rest of the season if Vincent-Young is fit, or do you think he might have a fight in his hands with Wilson?
I think the fact he's so quickly. The easy change to make was Chambers off, Vincent-Young on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that he made the more difficult choice of Wilson off, Chambers moving over, Vincent-Young on, makes me think that is where he obviously wants to keep Chambers on the pitch for his ability and his leadership qualities, you'd imagine. And so like I say, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see a lot more of that over the rest of the season, that Chambers moves centrally. It sounds like he's been very complimentary of Luke, sort of in the press every week, and I think he wants to keep him in the team. So I guess we'll see how that plays out. And obviously Vincent-Young, you've got to get in the team.
Yeah. And Dave, do you think it might actually be the fact that Chambers seems to be the only player that's vocal during games?
Yes. Yeah, without doubt.
Do you think that's one of that might be one of the things that actually keeps him in the team between now and the end of the season?
I think it will. I think it probably will. I mean, I think it's a bit perhaps harsh on Wilson, who's I think played really well since he's been back in the side, particularly in that sort of 3-game winning run. And even after that, I don't think he was perhaps at fault. I think maybe I don't think he was at fault for either of the goals yesterday. But yeah, Chambers is vocal. Chambers is captain. Chambers is vocal, and clearly we lack that right through the side, don't we? Other than him, so yeah, perhaps he would. Yeah, he want, and also once again, obviously you got to get Vincent-Young back in the team, and move Chambers across as quickly as possible. Perhaps he can even be even more a dominant vocal presence from central defence rather than a right back.
Yeah, would seem that way. So at the same time, Jackson came on for Judge, and we sort of changed to a 4-4-2, didn't we, with Dobra going out wide, but Jackson seemed to be playing slightly behind Norwood, which was strange because we had no chance of getting him in behind. No,
I felt a bit for Dobra, really. It was difficult for him. But he did one or two things. One really good bit of play when he sort of looked like he'd sort of been crowded out. I think it was wide right, and he twisted and turned and got in a sort of low cross towards a near post. And that, other than that, he just didn't really seem to land on the ball. I'm not saying the game passed him by. It's just how it was. Pretty much passed everybody by second half to a degree, I suppose. But there was one free kick. There was one really good free kick from Dizelle. I mean, again, some of those set pieces have been, just floated in the keeper's arms. But there was one really good, and that one really sort of picked up too much on it from Dizelle, right to Jackson, and it just got away from him, didn't it? And also, I suppose we should have spoken about fairly early in the piece in the second half. I think it was Edwards again played Norwood in. Almost one-on-one, and he looked like he was in, and he sort of lunged for it and just didn't. Ball sort of got away from him, just didn't quite make contact. That for Norwood, that was probably a half decent chance, but so was a free kick from Dizelle for Jackson, and maybe Jackson was cold, hadn't really been on that long, and just didn't make contact with it. But that was it. Other than that,
I think the problem with Norwood is that he doesn't look like he's got a proper 90 minutes in him, does it? You're sort of leaving him on to because you've got a puncher's chance of. Sort of like in a heavyweight fight, if you get a chance, you want it to fall to him, but the chances aren't falling to him because he looks knackered after. Sort of before about the hour mark.
At least he's making those runs. He's up there on his own. He's up there on his own.
Well, like I say, he's coming back from injuries. He's been in and out of the team, and he's obviously been rushed back a couple of times because the manager at the time, whether it be Paul Lambert earlier in the season or Paul Cook now, have sort of know that he's the only player that's likely to score your goal, and it does mean that he plays more minutes than perhaps you'd want him to.
Yeah, indeed. So Troy Parrott came on for Bishop near the end as well. Cook definitely, he's not afraid to make changes, is he? But in truth, we didn't really create anything that late on. Portsmouth were pretty steady once they got in front, and 2-1 was how it stayed. Don't know about you two, but I felt more frustrated after that one than I did the Fleetwood game, because the Fleetwood game felt like a bit of one of those freak games where everyone just plays appallingly, like the Gillingham game. Whereas this one, it felt like the game was in our hands and then snatched away from us.
So in our hands, wasn't it? It really was. Yeah, I share that pain, I think, yesterday. To be fair, when we scored the goal, that 1-0 really create a lot after all those chances really were before, the Bennett's sort of good chance. Obviously the Judge free kick. Whilst we were 1-0, did we really create anything close to going 2-0? Probably not really, but again, they weren't doing anything. Like I said, the game was sort of just meandering along, really. That was the thing. And then second half, that goal obviously gave them such a lift, and we just weren't at the races second half, really, were we? That was a disappointing thing, as you said, I think.
Yeah, indeed. And let's move on into the Twitter questions. There was quite a lot of comments about these players just aren't good enough. Can't wait for Cook to get rid of them all. So there's only one place to start, really, and that's with Firmsky. There's a lot of questions like this. How many of this squad needs to go? It's poison from within, clearly. What do you think, Joe?
I disagree, really. I think that there's a mentality issue sort of on the pitch, but I think it's up to the sort of the management team to sort of change that mentality. It's not going to be an easy job, like we can see that, but ultimately momentum just plays such a big role in the season, and you look at the fixtures we've got coming up over the next few weeks, and
Yeah.
you've just got to start winning the games you need to win. And we're either going to get in the playoffs, and it means we've finished the season well, and the players have got rid of this losing mentality that's there, or we're not, and a sort of number of the players will go in the summer. I think there's going to be a big turnaround anyway, just because there's so many players out of contract. But I think for all the talk about the sort of mentality of the sort of players, the club as a whole, the fans are part of this mentality as well now. Like, you sort of put this record, Ipswich aren't going to win. Along come Ipswich. Ipswich have got a poor record. As soon as we let in a goal, we're bad. And it's like it's not just the club that's been infected with this sort of losing mentality. It's in the fan base as well. And I think, but until we start winning games, the sort of accusations are going to be there. And like I say, we've got 10, 11 games left, and we've just got to start winning. We just got to start winning them. They're against teams at the bottom of the league, and we need to just do our job.
Okay, Craig Fimbo of this parish asks, do Ipswich have the wrong type of experience within the squad? As we have it on paper, but do we have it on the pitch, Dave? I had a little think about this, and there's not that many promotions on the CVs of players in our squad, is there? There's plenty of experience, and you can call some of them battle hardened, but none of them have bloody won anything.
Have they? Of any, is there? I'm struggling to think of any.
Probably Chambers at Forest. Judge
Chambers, maybe Norwood at Tranmere.
Judge at Brentford. Yeah, Norwood's got a couple.
Probably a couple very low.
Maybe at Bristol City. They were in League One years ago.
Possibly. But it's a good question. Other than that, there's really not much at all, is there?
I think the players that have, I wouldn't say let us down this season, but realistically, you've got your sort of old timers effectively in Chambers and Scouse. Obviously, Scouse hasn't played, but it's those players sort of like 28 to 31 who should be the absolute key players driving everything forward. That sort of Norwood's hasn't been fit all season, hasn't really. I think a lot of that falls on him for conditioning through sort of leading up to the season. Didn't come back sort of how he should have done, and like I say, everyone could see that. Judge, I think Judge has been decent since the turn of the year, but he's obviously had a lot of issues in his private life, and they must affect you on the pitch, and they look like they have done. And then it's sort of players like Toto who've been hit and miss, John Nolan who's been hit and miss, Caden Jackson who's been more miss than hit, but injuries, and it's that core of players that should be the key sort of spine and component of the team, sort of 28 to 31 years old, that just haven't worked this year for us, and probably haven't in the last 2 years either.
No, and the injuries are kicked in again. You know, as we said, we're all saying, you know, I know it was only sort of, you know, first half hour last week against Plymouth, but how well the, you know, Downs and Dazelle started that game together. You know, that pivot, you know, really brilliantly, and then, you know, next minute Downs is out for. Well, that came out this week as well. Don't know what 4 to 6 weeks, I think, with a grade 2. Was it hamstring tear? I mean, you couldn't make it up, really.
I think John Nolan's going to be a big miss as well.
Yeah, Nolan. Yeah, he's got a goal in him as well. Yeah, but look, we're left with what we're left with. They've got to do it. And as Joe said, you know, looking at the running, I mean, how often we've said this? So there are some very, very winnable games there, but it's just stringing, again, getting on another run, stringing 2 or 3 wins together. And, you know, which we haven't done under Cook yet, but, you know, just seeing how, because I think if you did that under Cook, then the you know, it really, really would start to roll, because, you know, his enthusiasm, let's face it, is infectious, isn't it? You know, you just heard him yesterday, you know, without the commentary yesterday, it's pretty unbelievable. He really is, you know. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you can get on that winning run with him at the helm. I really think there would be some serious momentum there, but, yeah, on paper, it looks certainly possible, but in reality, I don't know.
Are we a team that struggles to fix problems on the pitch as players, do you think? Like,
yeah, I think so.
It really felt like Cook was having to walk them through everything. And I get that it's a new manager with new ideas, but our players never seem to be able to get themselves out of a problem and work their way through games.
I think with Cook, though, you'd probably find that when he was at Wigan and they were flying in the top half of the Championship, he'd still be exactly the same on the side of the pitch, walking them through.
I think that's his way.
It's almost like a nervous tick, isn't it? That the things that they can see that's slightly wrong, they're going to do it. But for me, it's just the fear that we play with. That's what that's what sticks out to me when things aren't going well. The players, they take the ball, and rather than have a shot at goal or try and beat their man, they take it inside and they give the easy ball, and
Completely.
and the move ends up breaking down. But it's not really anyone's fault. But it's almost like they just passing the buck, passing the responsibility elsewhere. No one's willing to just do something out of the ordinary in case they lose a ball, and it must be difficult to get rid of that fear that's obviously been instilled in them for a couple of years, just to get that out overnight. Especially when, like I say, when you let in a goal and things start to go badly, you then sort of revert back to this. I'm just going to give the ball to someone. Like I say, if I give the ball to my teammate 6 yards away, I'm not the one that, if we concede a goal, that's going to be blamed for it. And like I say, that's just what Cook's got to try and get out. And you can hear him on the sidelines with Bennett. Come on, Benno, hit it, shoot, have a crack. Telling Edwards to get up and down the pitch, telling people to beat a man and things. And it's just giving the players that confidence to try and beat a man or try and take a shot, and knowing that if it goes wrong, you're just going to say, well done, you made the right decision. Might not have worked right, but you made the right decision, and just getting that into people's heads.
Yeah, and we were doing that, to be fair. We were doing that first half. I mentioned Bishop in particular, wasn't he? Absolutely. 2 or 3 times he made those, broke the lines. Absolutely brilliant. You thought, yeah, here we, you just, he looks so good and you think, yeah, okay, we'll be all right today. But yeah, just like you said, once they scored in second half, that all stopped.
I wonder if, I think the problem we're finding is that we know that Cook plates his sort of a lot of responsibility on his wide forwards, and if you look to see, no one's really taken their chance in that role yet. Bennett's had 6 or 7 games without really doing anything. Judge has sort of come inside. Edwards hasn't been great since he's come back from injury. Lancaster's come in and out of the team. Dobra's had a go there now. What's he trying to find there? The fact he gave Bennett that role that freed him up so much yesterday, does that mean he thinks that Bennett is probably the one that to persist with and take away that defensive responsibility and just trying to get him? Because he is the one that lands on the ball in good positions, I find. But
he is
with how powerfully he hits his crosses and passes. Sometimes you just wish he'd hit one of those at goal. Sometimes because the chance, like his teammates don't get on the end of it.
There's no way that Keenan Bennett has got to Borussia Mönchengladbach without being able to hit a decent shot or a decent cross. He just can't seem to be able to do it in matches.
And he's got it. I've said before, he's got that trick, and he's got that lovely step over. He can drop his shoulder, and you see him. He glides past. Guy, I'm trying to think who was on the commentary. Yes, was it Guy? And he said he had him at Spurs. He's with him at Spurs, I think he said. Was he talking about? I'm sure he's talking about Bennett. Yeah, he came from youth. He knew from the youth at Spurs, and he said he was a standout. He could just glide past people and just drop his shoulder. And you see glimpses of it. And you so want him to go on, but he just, again, perhaps a bit of fear, just something quite holding him back there.
Yeah, we had a good question on Bennett.
Almost. Oh, sorry.
Good question on Bennett's. Joe, you can answer this from Tim Welsh. Hasn't Ipswich player ever had as great a talent to effectiveness differential than Keenan Bennett's?
Yeah, and it's difficult to argue with it because Bennett's played 20-odd games this season, scored 1 goal, and that's just not good enough. Not a good enough contribution from an attacking player, is it?
No. Jet did have a good shot on him though, didn't he, Dave?
Howitzer of a shot, didn't he?
I think Bennett's probably covers a bit more ground, but yeah. Chet definitely had the better shot.
I just found it very interesting the way we set up with Bennett yesterday, almost giving him that free roll off the left with players doing his defensive running. That has Cook decided he's the player out of Lancaster, Dobra, Edwards, Judge. He's the player that can make things happen. So he's going to be given some dispensation to try and make something happen. So, and if he can get some confidence into him, I think he could be a game changer for us because yesterday 3-4 times he ends up in a good position. The free kick for Judges because he gets a ball and just beats a man and gets fouled. Twice on the edge of the box he could take a shot. I say he's not doing enough for me at the moment, but there's definite.
Again,
you see the signs, don't you?
He needs a bit of luck. He needs to have a shot around the box, hits a defender on the arse, and ends up in the far corner.
He has scored for us, and that was with his right foot, wasn't it? So
it's right foot for control, left foot for power.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he just needs something. But I think there is a player there.
One of our many Finnish listeners, Dave, Jarne Salonen, asks, it seems that It seems clear that we need a big summer overhaul. Is there any chance that Marcus Evans would bankroll this if the takeover doesn't happen?
You would think surely him and Cook have had that conversation with Cook already. I would have thought. Look, there's going to be a lot of wages freed up, isn't it? You know, players are going to go. There will be a turnover, and it'll be quite a considerable turnover. So, I think on one hand, Cook's got to be cute. However, I think Cook will attract players to that level.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have particularly expensive taste either. Cook,
no, I don't think so.
At the clubs that he's managed at
you
before.
would think, when you, Joe, I would think that part of the deal with becoming manager was that he would have had that. He'd have had that conversation with Evans, and maybe he's been promised a small war chest or whatever.
I think probably the most likely summer that it is, if you remember Mick's first summer, 2013, where we had so many players out and so many players in, but it was the summer where we brought in David McGoldrick, Daryl Murphy, Cole Scouse, Christoph Berra, Jay Tabb, Paul Anderson, Dean Gherkin, a really, really good,
solid
summer of business. All those players were signed. Yeah, they were all on free transfers, but they would have all been first team wages. They weren't your sort of Giles Cokes or people like that where they're just punts on a filler. Probably, 1,500, $2,000 a week. These were your sort of top end players of the squad, top wage earners, and I imagine that's the sort of recruitment we're going to be. Yeah, it will be a lot of free transfers, but when you look at this level, League One, League Two, it's all, especially in these COVID times, it's all run on a year-to-year basis. We talk about having a lot of players that are contracted in summer.
There are going to be hundreds of players.
We only have so many out of contract, sort of as a number, because our squad is so big. Because we've got 50 players in the squad that we've got 25 out of contract. Most other teams have got. We look at Lincoln under Appleton; they've brought 12, 13 players in this season. It's just the way of the world in League One, unless you're a really stable club, which most aren't.
Slight change of pace here, Joe. If you want to raise your glass here for the viewers, Fat Boy Rum wants to know, does the size of your beer glass for the podcast depend on the performance from town?
After that Fleetwood game, I don't think there was a vessel big enough to drink out of after that.
A barrel.
Just had to fill the bathtub up with beer.
Lovely stuff. Mullet, who I'm sure has got through a bathtub of beer during his time, asks Dave, Cook was obviously trying to instill belief in the players and coach them throughout the game. Are we one piece of luck away from that mentality turning, or do we need a squad in his image before we can be effective?
I think we are, we, as I said, a bit with, bit with Bennett, perhaps a little bit of luck, a deflected goal here and there, something that, gets us through. But look, I think he's got, like I said, and I think this goes back to, I said a few minutes ago, I think, if we can just string a win or two together, I think under him, you really will get some serious momentum. You really will.
I think the biggest bit of luck we need between the rest of the season is keeping people fit, especially
yes, it is. Yeah, and we
James
just haven't
Norwood had that. and if Kane Vincent-Young can stay fit, if those two can start every game between now and the end of the season, I think we'll probably be okay.
I don't know about you, but when Vincent-Young came on and made that sort of immediate lung-bursting drive around the right side, you feel, no, it's going to pull up. He's just bound to. But yeah, it's crucial now. We can't afford to lose. We can't afford to lose anyone of note now around that squad.
So who would be the 4 players if we're going to make the playoffs? Who are the 4 players that we must keep fit and they must be at the top of their games for us to have any chance?
Well, James Norwood is number one.
Crucial.
So he's got 4 in his last 6. He's actually got 6 goals in 12 starts this season. I think he averages goal sort of more than every 2 90, like half a goal per 90 minutes and stuff. So he is 1 in 2 all season, and the rest of our strikers are nowhere near there. So Norwood, Vincent-Young, those 2 are key. Probably, I think Teddy Bishop is quietly coming back into a nice bit of form.
Yeah.
I'll let Dave pick the other one. I think the other one is much for
maybe if Keenan Bennett's can
fulfill his potential. Maybe
if Kenlock could play well, because I don't think Stephen Moore's going to give us what we need on that other flank.
Completely out of the squad yesterday. But having said that, but then is Chambers going to make those make those runs at right back? As we said all along, that Vincent-Young can play left back, but then is there anyone else that can play other than Chambers that could fit in at fullback there?
You've got Matheson, but he seems to be a long way off it, doesn't he?
He's a long way off. Yeah, he's miles off. I mean, Dezelle, but he flatters to deceive, doesn't he? And I look at Dezelle now and you think, yeah, lovely footballer. We said this all along, but how many key passes has he actually made? I can't remember him last 4, 5, 6, or certainly since Cook. How many key passes has he made? I just don't see it. He sort of flatters to deceive for me. Certainly those 3 that Joe mentioned, and yeah, he's right. The others are much of a muchness, really.
What we need is one of those wide forwards, whether it be Jack Lancaster, Keenan Bennett, Gwion Edwards. You need one of them to get you 4 or 5 goals between now and the end of the season, don't you? In the last 11 games, one of those has got to hit some form. And
I mean, it's there. I mean, look at Edwards start the season, bloody fire, wasn't he? What, 5 goals in the first 10 games, or even that probably?
No, it's probably 5 in about 8, wasn't it?
But hasn't been close. I mean, I know injured, interruption, and really hasn't been a threat since, really, has he?
Yeah, but between Norwood and those 2 and those group of wide forwards, you need 15 goals from those 3, don't you? Minimum.
Yeah.
Kevin Hurst asks, are the youngsters as good as we think? All made available for loan, but very few went out. Do we big them up far too much? This gets put to them quite a lot, doesn't it? But they're in a team that's struggling.
Our only team is struggling. I think we do big the youngsters up because we like to see the youngsters coming through the academy and making it to the first team. And certainly, the ones that have. I mean, even some of the ones that are out at the moment. McGavin, he's looked good at times, and I'd say certainly one for the future. Look, we all like El Mazzuni, and perhaps I'd like to have kept him. Obviously, now he's out for the season, but. And I think and Dabber's doing well up in Scotland now, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah, he's
team of the week.
Turned into a real key player for them up there, but
yeah,
McGavin's not really getting much of a look in it up there, which is a shame. No, but
no.
But even when you see someone like Jack Lancaster, 2 years ago he was cutting it in the championship in a really poor team in the championship.
Gone in his shell.
He's good enough. He's shown that, but you've just got to. All these players just need the manager to get their mentalities right, just to help them out, just to take that fear out of their game, hide their
little
negatives.
Things in it. There's sort of fine margins sometimes with these players. I mean, Lancaster's season might have turned out slightly differently had he scored that goal at Sunderland, which he should have. He gets over the ball, he scores with 2 up, we win the game. He's probably in the team for the next 4 or 5 games. Fine margins with these players, but I don't think they're bigged up. I mean, the fans just love to see it because they love to see these players graduating through to the first team. I mean, again, another player who could have been so useful for us, and I think he was back and training and has played for the 23s was obviously Tristan Nydam. But again, with all the football he's missed, you can't just expect him to come back and slot in at fullback, can you? But he might well be a possibility there.
I think someone was talking about him pre-game who played in under 23s. Might be Jack Lancaster or Cole Scouse even, and they just said, he's back, first game, best player on the pitch for the under 23s.
Really?
And
wow.
He didn't play for the under 23s last game, so I don't know whether he's now
managing that though, Joe.
Moved into the first team squad.
Interesting,
because Vincent-Young hasn't played for the under 23s as an example, where you'd have thought they'd have given him a game to sort of try and help him with his fitness. So hopefully Nydam's getting close because he's a quality player.
There's an exciting prospect of Vincent-Young on one on the right side and Nydam on the left, isn't it? For goodness sake.
And Nydam is one of those players that just seems to have a really good mentality for football. And I think he doesn't seem to go into a shell at all. He's one of those players that just goes and goes and goes. And
confident.
Like I say, it's not going to take much to turn it around. It just needs... Like, what was it Mullet who just said, you just need that little bit of luck sometimes, don't you? You just need to win a game that maybe you shouldn't and just push on from there.
Yeah. Dave Strang asks, if Cook, as expected, decides it's time to say goodbye to Chambers and Skews, do you think the fans will back him or back our 2 longest serving players? I feel like most would back him.
Manager. I think, I think, but I'd also like to think that people should back him now in that he's identified Chambers as a key player in the team, but yet there's still the section of the fan base who still say that Chambers shouldn't be there. But Cook is now moving Wilson out to play Chambers centre back, and if he continues to do that for the rest of the season, either you trust Cook and you back him that he's the right man, or you don't. And if that's what he thinks is the right thing to do, then I'd say we'll see from there.
Matt Makin asks Dave, how does Paul Cook go about sorting out the psychological issues in the squad? Once again yesterday, heads seemed to drop as soon as Pompey equalised, despite having been in control of the game up until that point. Is this lack of resilience in the team the biggest issue right now?
I think it is, and you need leaders, and I think we've already touched on that. Which is perhaps why he left Chambers. He left Chambers on and took Wilson off. There's no great vocal presence in that team. There's not a. Can you imagine that team, a totally different team? It's not hypothetical. Someone like Magilton in central midfield. These players set standards. And players react to that, and players respect that. And other than Chambers, there's really no one. There's no one there at the moment. There really isn't.
So do you think that the way that Paul Cook can sort these psychological issues out is to bring in some quality players?
I think so. Yeah,
in the summer,
I'd like to see. Yeah, you'd like to see a bit of an experience, a gnarly, I say old, but a gnarly experience central midfielder with a bit of nous in there.
You want a couple of his generals, don't you? Cook's generals. Roberts is obviously one, but he's now on the coaching side. But
yeah,
there'll definitely be a couple still kicking about. Chris Rand, we always enjoy this. I'll ask, in case nobody else does, of the 11 games left, can we win 7 and draw 2? That's what the playoffs will probably need. Chris has encouraged us to go game by game.
Go for it.
We're already 51 minutes in, Dave.
But you look at it. I mean,
games against the bottom 6 to come.
I mean, you look at you've got Bristol Rovers at the moment 20th, Rochdale 24th, Wimbledon 23rd, Northampton 22nd was it?
All right. So out of those 7, Joe, in the bottom, what was it? Bottom 6? Did you say?
Yeah, because we've got to play Wimbledon twice, effectively.
Yeah. So those teams are going to be fighting up against relegation, so it might turn out to be slightly more difficult than we found it earlier on in the season. But would you back us to maybe win 4 of those, 4 or 5 of them, and then and definitely draw? I mean, maybe only lose one of them.
Yeah, if you win 5, draw 1, lose 1, win 4, draw 2, lose 1, I think you're probably going to be there or thereabouts. But we've got nothing to fear going into these games, and people can moan about it, but we go to Wigan next week. They're in a crisis, this team, and they get some good results, but then they have some absolute shockers. Like they might win 2-3-0 one week, but then they'll lose 3-4 the week after. And you look at the bottom of that table, look at the goal differences of that bottom 6, and they're all -20s. The reason they're at the bottom of the league is because they're not very good, and we've got to go there and beat them because we need to prove that we are good.
But it's just a mental league, isn't it? I mean, the league is. I mean, Fleetwood, absolutely. I thought so. Both, technically, were miles better than us on Tuesday night. They lose 2-0 at home to Swindon yesterday. I mean, that
brings me on nicely to the
no
other
rival
results,
reason
Dave.
to it. Yeah.
So Sunderland and Lincoln, neither of them seemed to want to lose that game.
No.
So they drew 1-1. Accrington Stanley won 3-1 against Wigan. AFC Wimbledon drew at home to Charlton, which did us a favour, but maybe shows that AFC Wimbledon aren't a bad side. Oxford lost 2-0 at home to Blackpool, so Blackpool are right back in the mix now. Fleetwood, as you mentioned, they lost 2-0. Just quick shout out for Fleetwood's goal music the other night. Even though we were conceding, I was pissing myself laughing both times I heard
Jordan
that.
Jordan said about it. He went up there. Apparently, they must have played it last. He's heard it before, and he said, "Oh, you got to listen to this. That was superb, wasn't it?" Captain Pugwash, brilliant.
If you want entertainment, Rochdale and Peterborough are the sides to watch, aren't they? And as expected, they played out a 3-3 draw.
Did you hear that Rochdale stat on the Quest last night?
Yeah, what is it that they have?
They've scored 3 goals at home 4 times and haven't won. It's just sensational.
Amazing.
What a team to watch.
Plymouth finally got a win. They beat Bristol Rovers 2-0. Gillingham drew at home 2-2 with Doncaster. Crewe won at Northampton. Hull, I think they're still top. Yeah, they drew away at Shrewsbury. And Burton's incredible run came to an end at the hands of Total Football Milton Keynes. So that the table now. So all of the top 6 drew, which is quite incredible. So that's Hull still top,
Amazing.
with Peterborough second, but with games in hand. Sunderland the third, Lincoln fourth, Doncaster fifth, Charlton a sixth on 56 points. So they're 2 points ahead of us, but we have 2 games in hand on them. I probably should have worked out points per game rather than going through this, but ahead of us now we have Gillingham and Portsmouth.
I mean, looking at it, Blackpool are the dark
Blackpool have got a couple of games in hand, haven't they?
A couple of games in hand, only a point.
On a good little run.
But that also means they've got so many games to fit now between now and the end of the season, doesn't it?
So they've got 4 games in hand on Charlton and teams. But Joe's right. Yeah, it's going to come. Games are just going to come so thick and fast for them. But yeah, it's all very tight. It's so tight.
Yeah.
I mean, again, looking at us, I think I mentioned it last week. Goal difference is going. That's another point. If if it's going to come down to as it did last time we went in the playoffs, the goal difference. I mean, that really works. Well, yeah, pretty much at the moment it works against us.
It looks like the top 4 are going to be in the top 6, doesn't it? At the moment,
yeah,
and then the rest are fighting for 5th,
scrapping
and 6th.
for 2. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I'm going to push you then. With how many games left have we got?
11
games left. Who is going to finish in the top 6, starting with Dave? So Hull, Peterborough, Sunderland,
it's going to be
Lincoln.
the top 4. Hull, Peterborough, Sunderland, Lincoln. I mean, again, they're there with games in hand. You've got to say probably Doncaster. I'd love to say us. I think probably Portsmouth.
Yeah,
I'd be the same apart from Doncaster out, Ipswich in. I think the top 4, and I think it'll be Portsmouth and Ipswich 5th and 6th.
There you go.
That's it. So, who do you think will play in the playoff semi-finals, Joe? So presumably we're 6th. Sunderland are 3rd at the moment. Do you think it could be Hull?
It wouldn't surprise me to see Sunderland just sneak up automatically. I think they seem to be on a sustained run of decent form. Hull are a little bit up and down, but I think it'd be. I think Sunderland and Hull to go up automatically, and then Peterborough and Lincoln. So one of those 2.
Hull will score enough goals. I think you're probably right there. I hope you're right, Joe. I really do.
Joe keeps the faith. We've got a good manager now, haven't we? And if Norwood can keep himself fit,
and we've
got half a chance.
And I think we shouldn't underestimate. I know people say so what, but it shouldn't be underestimated that he's got a whole week. There's no midweek game this week. He's got a whole week to work with the players on shape and formation and get his points across and instill some of that confidence and a bit more steel in him.
Teddy Bishop has said, sort of in his post-match interview, like we're in early Monday morning, we've been told it's going to be a hard week, and he says there's been a lot of information to take in already, and you're sort of trying, but I
like to hear that.
It's difficult, and we all they've had is sort of one training session a week basis since he's come in. So this week we can have a real good go at getting his shape across. A real busy week, and it's love to go to Wigan and win next week.
Well, this is it. It's not the be. I was going to say that it's not the be all and end all next week at Wigan, but.
Start running out of games. I'd say it's a
big 3 points. Win at Wigan, then you got Bristol Rovers at home, and you're into Easter. Big game next week at Wigan. Yeah, win that, and yeah.
Do you think it will be a 6-day week for them, Joe? Because I think normally clubs have a day off during the week, don't they, on a Wednesday? But would you expect them to just be in every single day? Maybe just doing some,
even if they're just walking through some shape and things like that, or watching some video. You can't give them a day off this week, and I'm not saying you need to work them. There's so much information they need to get across that you've just got to get them in there working through it. And I'd say there's such a big squad of players as well, isn't there? That you sort of working through with one lot, and then you've got another lot of players that need it as well. And it's a real challenge for him. It sounds like he's a very good coach, and hopefully he can.
It's going to be the next 2 weeks. I know. Obviously, then you're running into Easter, but then obviously after the Wigan game, the next game's Good Friday, isn't it? So again, you've pretty much got a full week with the players again. So a crucial couple of weeks.
Lovely stuff. So there won't be a live stream this week unless we have some more exciting takeover news or something like that. The flagship podcast will return next Monday, hopefully after a morale-boosting win at Wigan. Is there anything you both like to plug aside from favourite chicken ribs before we go?
we've got the FA Youth Cup 4th round tie against Swindon on Saturday,
yes.
but it clashes with the Wigan game, so I don't think that it's going to be streamed anywhere, sadly. But also, the under-23s are playing Hull tomorrow night, and they normally stream their games, and it's a 7 o'clock kickoff. So
sometimes on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah, there might be a chance to watch the Hull game tomorrow, so we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it should see Kenlock, Lancaster, maybe.
I think they'll send a proper full under-23 squad up there because they want to keep all the senior players back for this week.
Of course, yeah, because it's such a long journey, that, isn't it?
Yeah, did I see that and Lancaster up there, and they're not there Monday, Tuesday, effectively.
No, good point. Did I see that Hawkins is close to being fit again as well?
Yeah.
You're sort of almost forgetting about him.
He is close to training. I just remembered, I have heard that sort of 4 of the under-18s are travelling up for the under-23s game on Monday, that they were pulled out of yesterday's game. So this is going to be no first team is going to be involved in this under-23s game.
You wondered about that because the 18s got hammered yesterday, didn't they, Joe?
Yeah, and basically 3 of their normal back 4 weren't playing, so it sort of explains that to an extent.
Yeah.
There you go then. Bodies on the training pitch. Okay, so yeah. Dave, unless you've got anything else you want to plug?
No, I did a bit of plug for the Russell Osman and Ray Crawford. Shameless plugs for the Russell Osman and Ray Crawford interviews last week, which got a bit more traffic. But no, other than that, no, not really. Onwards and upwards.
Lovely stuff. Okay, yeah. Thanks for listening and watching, and wish for whatever you like.